Welcome to the Orange Hammer Podcast. My name is Corbett Storick. I've been a licensed general contractor for 8+ years, specializing in new construction, renovation, furniture building. I'm the son of an architect and an interior designer, and I've been surrounded in this industry since birth, watching all aspects from concept, design, build, punch list, and of course, all the problems that come up in between. In my time in Durham, North Carolina, I've noticed a significant gap in knowledge between homeowners who need work and the people who do the work. On this podcast, I hope to break down the process of homeownership from the perspective of both the homeowner and the contractor in an effort to help raise the knowledge of homeowners about their homes and the construction/renovation process. I hope you enjoy. If you're enjoying the Orange Hammer Podcast, or if you have a topic that you want covered, or have recently done a project, please contact the Orange Hammer Podcast. The Orange Hammer Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Please like and subscribe, share on whatever platform you're enjoying your podcast on. Also, check out our YouTube channel, The Orange Hammer. The Orange Hammer Podcast is proud to be brought to you by CRS Contracting LLC for all your construction and handyman needs, new buildings to renovations, furniture building, EV charger install, or even a TV mounted. You can call me, Corbett Storick. It'd be my pleasure to help you. You can find me on Instagram at CRS Contracting. WSDG, the Walter Storick Design Group, specialists in architectural and acoustical consulting. Check out WSDG.com. And Taylor Bragg, for all your artistic needs in all mediums. You can find her on Instagram at brag_about_art. That's brag, BRGG, with 2 G's. She's the fantastic artist behind the Orange Hammer logo, and she did my fantastic table painting of my podcasting table. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Micah, how are you doing today? I appreciate you coming on the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing all right today, Corbett.
I know we just saw each other for the Super Bowl.
That's right.
That was very fun.
That was
exciting.
exciting.
Congratulations once again to you and
Thank
your
you.
family,
Thank you.
soon to be growing family.
That's right. That's
Very
right. I'm
cool.
having a baby, my first baby, which I'm excited about right now. I've been afraid. I've been surprised. I've been all the things, but I'm currently in the excited phase.
All the emotions.
All the emotions. So yeah, excited about that.
And you know, that's an interesting topic that we can dip into a little bit today in regards to your home and what prep maybe you might be doing for your new child and first child, which I'm sure the preparation is different as people have more children in life. But let's back up before we jump into that, and let's talk a little bit about your home. It is your first home?
That's right.
Yeah. And you were talking, you and Jen and I were talking just before we started recording that you had rented before your home, but never in like the classic North Carolina apartment complex style that might be used to in the Triangle. And you were like, you know, it was more like third floor walk up kind of situation. So you can't even really relate to her like woes. So she was really, you know, having some difficulties with her complex. So the home that you bought, let's start with like what kind of home, when did you buy it?
Yeah. So we bought our home I think we closed in like April of 2020. So, you know, quite a time to be closing. We had put in the offer before like the pandemic hit here, or at least we were acknowledging the pandemic here. Like we put the offer in February. So closed in like April of 2020, and it's in Durham, not far from like Duke's East Campus and all that. So kind of in a really nice spot for us.
I mean, your location is stunning. I mean, I know I went to one of the early kickball birthday parties, or I think it was a birthday party.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah, which is funny because I was on your kickball team, but couldn't actually make any of the games. Something kept coming up every game time.
But you made the birthday party.
And then you were like, I'm having a birthday party. And I was like, well, I don't have an excuse. I'd love to go.
I think this is classic on both of our ends.
Yeah.
Like of me inviting people who I hadn't met to a party and you showing up.
I know, yeah. Jen and and I were like,
too.
why not? And we ate your duck donuts and your Chick-fil-A, and it was delicious. And we had a great time.
Yeah.
And the kickball team is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And we can have a whole kickball podcast if we want.
Kickball podcast later.
I'm going to try to get one by one. I want to get every kickballer on here. Yeah. So yeah, that's an insane time. So when it's February of 2020 and there isn't really, at least here, there isn't really a pandemic even an acknowledgement for that matter.
That's right.
I remember actually I was away in February on a scuba diving trip and we were just seeing China cases making the news. There was like nothing in America yet. Yeah. And we were in real time seeing the first reported cases, I should say. Right. And some of us looked at each other and we actually had a serious conversation of like, should we stay here in this vacation home on this tropical island or should we like go home early? Like we were actually
Where were you?
I was in oh shit, now I'm gonna forget. I was in Belize. No, I'm sorry. I was in Honduras.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Honduras on a scuba diving trip. And we were like, 8 of us had rented a home together. Yeah. So there was a moment where we were like, well, maybe we should just stay here. We have protection or whatever. That obviously is not what we did. So February, nothing's going on, and you're just going through the normal motions of buying a home. So what's that like? You're just like, so what do you and your wife do for a living?
Yeah. So I can give you some context here. So let me see. At the time I was working at a nonprofit here in Durham. Okay. So I was a nonprofit manager, kind of generic nonprofit term. So working on trying to improve education systems and workforce systems for low-income folks in the Southeast United States. And then my wife is in real estate development. Okay. So she's a project manager, but for a community development institution, so kind of like a nonprofit or credit union that is, she does real estate development, but usually it's for kind of community-based things or supporting women and minority-owned businesses or doing like affordable housing and things like that. So
I didn't know this at all, and I would love to get her on the podcast and talk about that. Sure. So you're both full-time working, salaried employees.
Yeah, full-time working, and
have you been saving, and are you putting 20% down on this home? What's your financing like?
Yeah, so at the time, we had been living with our roommates. We had 2 roommates, another couple that we lived with. We joke it was Catherine and her roommate, who lived together for a while, and then they just added the husbands over time. And so we had been living with them kind of in some configurations for like the last few years, right? So what that meant was that our rent was fairly low, right? Like, because there's 4 people in a 2-bedroom apartment, and thankfully it worked for us, right? Because we got along really well, and our schedules were kind of opposite. So, we had been saving in that way, just kind of built into our living situation. And then too, she had been a student in some of the time that we had been living together. And so her getting a full-time job was like kind of a big pay bump, right? So kind of like our, increase in income,
especially comparatively, for sure.
Compared to being a student, right? And then I'll also add to that, I kind of mentioned this to Jen when we were talking beforehand, that like a huge part of us being able to get a house too is that Catherine's parents had pretty much paid for most of our wedding, right? So we had gotten married about in 2018. So this would have been, basically 2 years before this. So that's a huge expense that we didn't have to really think about, right? And so, we kind of think about like generational wealth and how that plays a part in home buying, right? And that, if you have some money getting passed down, even if it's not going directly towards the house, that opens up money for home buying,
for the
right?
house, for
home buying.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to acknowledge the ways that like all of those things really contributed to us being able to have money to buy a house, and also to have like credit scores and have, the things that kind of help us set up, right? And if you may not know this, but for the people listening, I'm a black guy. My wife is white, right? And I think that also sometimes plays a factor in like home buying and being able to get a loan. Unfortunately, it still does play a factor. But so basically I say all that to say, like, we weren't really thinking about it that much, like in terms of like home buying, right? We were like kind of had our artificially low rent. Our roommates were just moving right in February, so we were in that February 2020. So we were like, oh, I guess we're gonna have to. Our lease is ending. We're gonna have to get another apartment or something. So how about we casually look for a house now, right? So our casually looking for a house meant we got a real estate agent, right?
Okay.
And
so
that
how
was
do you
like,
go about getting your real estate agent?
yeah, because before that we had kind of like to go to open houses for fun, right? It was just like, ooh, there's an open house over there.
Free cookies.
yeah. Let's go. This is like pre-pandemic, right? So it's like, let's go check out this house. That house looks kind of cool. And we just kind of casually go look. So much so that we had talked to some of our friends to go with us sometimes, right? So that's what we had been doing before. So at this point, we're like, okay, let's get a real estate agent, and then we can start kind of looking. The process for that for us was asking our friends who they had, right? We had a friend who was selling their house and also buying another house, and they were like, they love their real estate agent. So shout out to Ellen Bell, if that's okay.
Absolutely. If it's a positive shout out, I want it mentioned for sure.
I think it's that Urban Realty or I forget, Durham Urban Realty, something like that. But Ellen Bell, she's great. And so we reached out to her and like, hey, we're looking for a house. Like, you know, can we meet up with you? And we met up with her. We kind of talked through what are the things that we're trying to do? What are the things we want to do? Are there any neighborhoods we want to live in or not? You know, that's pretty much the main things, right? But once we got a real estate agent, that really kind of got the ball rolling, because then she started sending us listings, and she was like, hey, you know, this one's open over here. You all want to go, you know, I want to go to this thing.
It moves out of casual quickly when you get
quickly.
somebody who.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because realtors work for free until they don't.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting way of like, you know, it's not that you all of a sudden have to buy a house from this person because they're working for you, but all of a sudden you've got somebody hustling and bustling and sending you links, like you said, and sending you listings and like, hey, I'm available at 3. I know you get off at 2:30. You want to go to this house? And like, you know, it quickly. You know, it's like going to look at a dog for adoption. like, oh, we'll just
puppy.
go look. Yeah. Oh, it's adorable
It's
puppy.
like, oh my goodness, this puppy. I got to get this one.
Fast forward 2 hours later, you're leaving PetSmart with your arms full of like every toy, you know? So it
sounds like a personal story here, Corbett.
You met my personal story. Normally he graces the studio, the four-legged beauty that is the studio dog of Willie Bear. Okay. So friend gets you to realtor. That's, you know, not as abnormal as some situations. I mean, networking is a massive play in all of, you know, in all of life for that matter.
Yeah.
And so she finds you the home. She finds the listing and sends it to you.
Yeah. So
are you doing any like, you know, independent Zillow search and like, hey, did you get this link?
Yeah,
you know, is this one still available? I know it says sold. Is it still sold? Like,
yeah, we've been doing
all that
individual, kind of in the casual, going to see open houses. We kind of been doing that just for fun. Sometimes we slip back into it these days of just looking at houses. So yeah, sometimes we would send her things or things she would send us we had already seen. But you know, being here in Durham, once you start going looking at houses, they're like, oh, this house, you know, Ellen would be like, these houses went up for us. So she was like, I was working with somebody on another house, and they would like get the listing, and then in like 48 hours, it was already an offer on, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of just like sped it up, because we would be like, she was like, okay, this just came on the market. We should go like right now. Like you said, like, you know, y'all get off at this time, right?
Well, yeah, it was an explosive time in the triangle, specifically the triangle. Like I had never seen, you know, anything like that, where literally a home would be bought the same day it was listed, sight unseen, above asking. Yeah. Like it was like, what? All of those things? Normally one of those things, but all of those things? Like it was just unheard of. And it was happening again and again and again. And it was happening to me personally. I was on the land hunt. Yeah. I was just looking for some raw land, and my realtor would send me something, and I'd be like, it would be like a Monday, and I'd be like, are you free Wednesday at 11:45? And she's like, sure. And then literally
it would be gone.
The next day, Tuesday, she'd be like, it's gone, sold,
Yeah.
20 grand above asking. And I'm like, well, I was not prepared to even pay asking. So clearly it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
So it just like, I had never seen anything like it.
Yeah. It's quite incredible.
Oh.
And incredible to be in that experience when I'm like, we weren't really ready. We were trying to be casual, right?
And this is your first, and as first time home buyers, this must be nuts. Cause you're like, this is what buying a home is like?
Right,
Like what?
exactly.
Like this is nothing like how you buy literally anything else. Like you don't buy cars like that.
Yeah.
You know, you don't buy I can't think of one thing ever that you would buy like that, except for maybe like a limited edition sneaker that you're waiting online for. But even that is such a niche thing. Like I'm not a sneakerhead, but I would maybe if a sneakerhead is listening, maybe they're like, oh hell yeah, I'll wait on. I'm camping out for that. You know, Fukijamas did a limited edition, whatever.
Yeah,
he painted something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like once again, shout out to Ellen because she was sending us things, and then this listing, the house that we're in now, it was a for sale by owner. So which I think was pretty lucky for us. I think she happened to be she got the listing sent to her from somebody who was like maybe on a neighborhood listserv, because this house wasn't even really listed on like the Redfins and the Zillows. So that played to our advantage. One, that we got knowledge of it, but two, because the publicity.
It wasn't even in the MLS yet.
I'm not sure about that. That would be a question for my wife.
Okay,
but
because I'm very curious about that, because if it's in the MLS,
usually they pull it to Zillow.
It's definitely on Zillow or whatever. So like if somebody just was like, hey, it's about to go up, do you want to look at this first? Because that's how I found my land.
So it was I'm pretty sure it must not have been. If MLS, it kind of is automatically pulled by those like websites and apps.
I don't want to miss speak, but I'm like 99% sure that that's how that works.
Right. Yeah. So however it worked, it wasn't on those sites, right? And so it was, somebody had posted in their neighborhood listserv, hey, after 20 years of living here, or after some amount of time of living here, I'm, finally moving, my wonderful house is up for sale. But they didn't have a realtor, right? So it's for sale by owner. They didn't have a realtor, so the publicity was not that high for this place. So we went to go see it on Saturday, I want to say. And shout out to my wife, Catherine. She was like, we went to see it. We met with the homeowner, and my wife was like, oh, this is really nice. We should like come back and see this. I was kind of like, I don't know about this. But the location was really great, as we talked about before.
Yeah, it's
and
fantastic.
the person was really nice. Like the homeowner was really nice, and probably told us things about the house that a realtor wouldn't have told, or wouldn't have like kind of divulged. So it was nice to kind of get some of the history of the house, and also some of the things that were a little bit rough around the edges that we might need to work on.
Yeah, because a realtor has to legally tell you anything if you ask. Right. But if they don't ask, they don't necessarily have to tell you. So it's like,
she was volunteering stuff that we weren't necessarily asking, right, or even thinking to ask, right? So definitely a different thing. And I think with our realtor being there, she was able to also ask questions. Another thing great about Ellen Bell was that she would like crawl under, like into the crawl space, like briefly, just to kind of look around. She's like, I'm not a structural engineer, but this looks okay. Or like, let me like just get a peek for you. So I really appreciated that. So
did you get in there with her?
No, because I didn't know what I was looking at.
Did you, I'm assuming that like you still got like, or actually I'm not assuming, did you get, inspections when you did your, due diligence and all that?
For sure.
Yeah.
So like we went on a Saturday, we came back. Or we went on a Friday. I think we came back on a Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was. We came back the next day to see it again, and we were like really into it. So we had heard, I think our realtor told us, and from some other people, that when you're putting an offer, because it was pretty intense time, you like just try to think about what price you think will be competitive,
best and last,
and then also write a letter, right? Because sometimes the letter can stand out. So even if you don't have the best offer, if you make a connection with the seller, or they like your letter or something. So we wrote a letter too. And I think because of all these things that are kind of like, it's like a game, right? That you have to have some knowledge of the rules to play, which is like worked for us, but kind of can suck, like if you don't know what's going on, or if you don't have all the things set up right. But So we wrote a letter. We connected on our cats, and our cats were going to enjoy the space.
Absolutely.
And we got news probably maybe Monday morning. So from like Friday to Monday morning, we had put in an offer that was accepted, and so then we were under contract.
FYI, you are not the first or even the second person who's told me that they went in below the highest offer with a letter and got it because there was a connection. Because sometimes there's and I had someone on here who sold it for less than they could have to somebody because of a letter. Yeah. And they were just like, I'm going to mess up the numbers, so half make them up, but they were like, we're getting $250K. We don't need $260K. We are fine. And this family is going to like not demo it, and they were like, this is a family. Everyone else is a developer. Like, they just want to live here and add a sunroom, and like that lined up better with their personal moral values. And those are all factors. Everything is a factor. You can't dismiss any of them. Some people weigh that more than others, but you went up to bat with everything you had to swing with, and you got it.
Yeah, and it seems like people love the houses that they lived in, so they want to see people continue to love on them. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, sometimes. I think more than not. I think you're correct. There's a strong emotional connection built with your home. I mean, it's a primal protective thing. I mean, we used to build huts. Now we build houses. Now we don't build them. Most people buy them, but still, it's the same like protective. This is mine, I stand here on my earth. Like, I definitely remember the first time I bought my home, like the first day I got out of the truck and I just felt differently. I stood on the grass and I was like, this is Corbett's grass. Like, this is mine. Like, I got to go in the backyard and pee on this. Like,
wow.
I own this now. Yeah. Did you not pee off your, did you not pee on your grass immediately?
I did not do that.
All right. We're going to cut this short right now so you can go home and just pee all over the backyard. Your baby has to know that it's yours.
It's funny. I feel like I had a related experience, but somewhat different, because it was like, I was like, whoa, this is weird to feel like I own own a piece of land. It feels different, right?
It does.
I think I thought also about who has lived here before. I thought about I get a little bit deep into it, right? So I also think about whose land was this before? How did we get this land? Did we take it from people, so on and so forth, things like that, right? And just kind of being like, wow, it's weird to own a thing and feel like it's mine. There's a fence around it, and kind of feel that like you said, the protectiveness and the stay off my lawn thing rising up in me, and I'm like, what is going on with this, right?
Yeah, you feel yourself turn. You age 15 years immediately, and you are all of a sudden you're like, I get the stay off my lawn, and I have.
And then it's I need to work to resist it a little bit.
Yeah, you're like, what is this urge to clean my garbage cans? Why do I? I've actually never.
It's
done
like
that, but it's
those
funny.
commercials.
I love that commercial.
Those commercials are great. They're great.
They're priceless.
We can't keep people from becoming their parents, but we can help
we can
you
try
save insurance on your shirt, which is great.
Yeah, the line monitor one is my favorite one. They're so funny.
They're so good, and I'm at that age where
you get it.
I agree, and I agree that we all become our parents at some point, in some way or another. We can resist it or try to be different, but we are our parents in some way. So anyway.
I can't even remember what I said, but I was with my brother and sister-in-law, and they were saying something. We were laughing about whatever, and I just dropped a one-liner response, and my sister-in-law couldn't even help it. She broke out laugh and was just like, that is such a John, referring to my dad.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I am his kid.
I'm starting to, I've had those moments with my siblings too. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you sounded just like mom when you said that.
Yeah. And it's it's scary and an honor and terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah. And the thing that I start to say, my mom used to always say, as my mama used to say, and then insert a phrase, right? You got 6 in one hand, half a dozen another, when you're trying to make a decision. So now I'm starting to say, as my mama used to say, and then I'll add, as my mama used to say, because she would say that.
So you'll say, as my mama used to say, my mama used to say.
Exactly.
Say it twice?
Exactly.
Yeah. You double it up? All right.
Exactly.
We're going to have to work that into the kickball game someday.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
So can I, if you don't want to give me the number, that's fine. But if you can I ask what you paid for the house?
Sure. Yeah. I think I'm happy to share that.
If you're
I'm
not,
happy to share that with you, Corbin.
If you're,
I was like, do I want to share this with whoever will listen to this?
If you're not, I just am more interested if it was higher than asking or lower than asking.
Yeah, so it was higher than asking.
Okay, that's if you're not comfortable with the number, that's fine. It's
comfortable with that.
Yeah.
It's in the records, right? You can find it in MLS.
I mean, it is completely in the records now that you say that way. Yeah,
it was. So we paid like, I don't really remember the number completely. I think it was listed at $275.
Okay. That
maybe.
Seems so low for your location and
exactly
the house you have.
I think I want to say $275.
How much over asking did you pay for it?
I think we ended up. Am I tripping? Am I thinking about the loan amount versus the? Anyway, it was in the like higher twos, right? And I think we did like 5, 6, 7, somewhere over there, over asking, right?
5,000 to 7,000 over.
Yeah.
So not much over.
Not much, right?
Okay.
And so I think this is like part of the, like the appreciation for Ellen and our realtor and being connected to these like alternative, to be like listservs to like know about this house, and for the person not selling, not being for sale by owner and not selling with the realtor, because I think that they could have sold. She could have asked for way more than that. At least probably like 15 to 20 or something like that. More than that, right?
Yeah. Or also just let a realtor let anybody and everybody have a bidding war.
Exactly.
And just be like, let these 11 developers bid it out, and I want my money.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But
So we appreciate
that was not in like I mentioned earlier, not in their moral compass.
And I don't think they had all those offers because of the publicity.
Right. When they choose to for sale by owner rather than a realtor, that a lot of people just don't even look at those when they're looking online.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't even think it was online. We looked online for it. We got it through it was our realtor sent us a neighborhood listserv. You know, the neighborhood listservs where they're
like a next door, something like that.
Yeah, where they're like, somebody need to get their cat who's killing birds, right? That's what's happening in my listserv, right? Where they listed it with some like houses on a Google website, right? Our pictures on a Google website. I think that really played to our advantage.
Such a combination of factors.
So many combination of factors, right? Combination of factors that play in our favor. And no, you asked me this before about did we have 20% down? I said no, we did not have 20% down. I think we did. Because there's like I think you can do as low as like 5% down depending.
Who'd you finance through?
I don't remember. And they, I don't know. I feel like this is common, but they have since like sold our mortgage to like at least 2 other people, where it's like change our mortgage lender has changed at least twice.
I'm not super familiar on that, but also at the same time, my personal mortgage is through like a bank that my grandfather started banking with, and because of that, my parents have bank accounts, and my brother and I have bank accounts with. So like it's handled with them, and I'm sure if they were like a larger Bank of America style bank, that they could easily sell my mortgage to somebody. But like,
so our place, the people we
I'm not a mortgage expert, but they are coming tomorrow. I have 2 mortgage experts coming in the morning.
That's exciting.
Who work in Raleigh, and I actually found them because I don't know dick about mortgages, and I want to learn more because it's so it's the least sexy part about a house. Is the financing, but it's arguably the most important part.
This is your show, of course, but you should ask them about, or something I would want to know with them is about like, kind of like criteria for getting mortgages. I'm always interested in things around race, right? So like, do they see, historically it's kind of been documented that people have been discriminated on both in mortgage rate as well as like ability to get a mortgage based on race. So I'm curious, like, how does that play out for them in the triangle if y'all want to talk about that.
I'm literally writing it down on a Post-it note, so it's going right here on my desk, bro. That's Are you kidding me? You're the first person. I have an intro to every episode that says if you got something you want to hear about, talked about, to write in and talk in, and no one has.
I mean,
so that just means there's nobody listening. But
I mean,
but thank you for
do it for
something.
you, right? You do it for you.
I 100% do this for me. Yeah, this is. You asked me earlier why I do this, and it started half as a joke. The same person brought me out to their home to look at the same bathroom 3 times, and they simply could not comprehend that tile is, the wall of tile is over the lip of a tub, and you can't see the lip but it's there, and it comes preformed from the tub, and that's how water doesn't ruin your home. And because they wanted to just literally like leave every ounce of tile and just rip out the tub and slide in a new tub. And they thought it would be like so easy and so cheap. And I was like, you're on Neptune right now. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, we're ripping all this out and we're putting new tile, and it's this much money. And like, I don't know. I don't care what you saw on Pinterest. I don't care about the 4-second reel you saw on Instagram. It's not the reality. That's the 4-second reel. So after the 3rd time, I was like, just thinking, how do I like inform people about what obviously I'm in the industry, so I have a biased opinion. But when you're talking about material possessions, I think the most important thing is like family and dogs. But like when you're talking about material stuff, there's a pretty simple argument for the most important thing you own being your home. And unless you're, somebody who also happens to own a private jet and several homes, it's probably the most expensive thing is your home. It is for me. It sounds like it is for you and for everybody that's in my world.
For sure.
They're very expensive, these objects, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions sometimes. And the fact that nobody knows anything about them, to me, is insane. Like the amount of research that people do for a $40 widget that we buy on Amazon is hours. You're going over, you're checking websites, you're checking reviews, star ratings, comparing multiple products, all of this shit. But like, you don't know what type of water heater you have. You don't know if your insulation is falling down in your crawl space. You don't know where the crawl space access door is. You don't know how to change a light bulb. You don't own a screwdriver. Like, so to me, it's just like, and that wasn't you. That's the person. That's John Doe.
I
Jane
can see
Doe.
myself in that though. It's okay.
Hey, I have been hired by somebody to change light bulbs. I'm not kidding. There was somebody who paid me $25 an hour to change light bulbs, and they owned the light bulbs. I needed to arrive with a ladder, and 10-foot ceiling, and put in the new one. $25.
Expertise and the height.
Hang picture frames. I've been hired to hang picture frames because they don't know how to put a nail in a wall with a hammer and just hang the thing. Like, okay, I'll do it. But I'm going to talk about you behind your back.
That's funny. I feel like,
so that's how that's like how the podcast was birthed. Because, you walk into a home and the things that catch your eye, and you could talk about this and relate because you just bought a home. The things that catch your eye are flooring, paint, kitchen cabinets, baseboard, crown molding, beautiful stuff, what type of door, tall ceilings, whatever. But arguably, and I would win the argument, none of that matters. All of that's irrelevant to what the home is doing. All of that doesn't make the water run, doesn't heat the water, cool the water. None of that heats or cools or filters the air. None of that keeps the air in and cool or hot or whatever. None of that keeps water out, like the roof. Like all of that stuff is the important stuff. And you can't see any of that unless you go look for it. And nobody's as interested in that. It's similar, like, you know, I'm kind of a gym nut, and it's similar to that. Like, you know, you can work out all day working out a vanity muscle, but if you don't give yourself good nutrition for the internals, but that's talked about less and is less like fun and is less important, or not less important, but less talked about because it's not as visual.
Yeah.
So that's like the birth of the podcast. And, you know, it's completely just a passion project of how I can,
that's great.
You know, try to further educate anybody who is interested in their home or future home buying. And right now it's nothing but fun. So I just keep it rolling. Yeah. So what, do you know what year your home was built?
Yeah. 1950 or 54. I think it's 1950.
Okay. And do you know approximately if any like upgrades that were done? One would assume that like the HVAC, the roof, and the electrical had all been upgraded from the 50s.
Yeah. So this is what I know, that the kitchen's been redone, because redid the kitchen. I assume the HVAC has been redone at least at some point. I don't know when, like, internal, what do they call it? Internal heat or internal air or whatever, whenever that was like kind of more popularized.
I don't think if AC existed in the 50s, there's no way it would still be working. So it has to be.
So definitely upgraded. Yeah. So definitely, because I think our HVAC system is about 10 years old, which I hear is around the time where it might be, you know, it may go out soon. Yeah. They're rated approximately, like the way that I tell people is like, when you've hit the 10-year mark, you're now playing with house money. Yeah. Let's make a budget for HVAC system.
Yeah. Basically start making a budget, and, you know, definitely don't forget to keep getting it serviced. Yeah. Because that could stop it breaking a little bit longer, keeping it clean and serviced. But then also, like, you know, 10 years and a day, for the record, it could break at year 6. Sure. But like 10 years, you made your money is what I'm saying. Yeah. You know, you could get 11, you could get 20, but 10 years. Same with water heaters. They're about the 10-year mark.
I think our water heater is about 12 years old. So like with those things, we kind of knew that they would be at a place to change them soon. Let me see. The house was not grounded. Like the electricity thing was not grounded. So our realtor was like, she's like, unfortunately, it's more common than it seems for like older homes. But so we got that grounded, you know, before we moved in.
It's not a terribly crazy fix, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me see. Those are the main things. It's still.
Have you done anything since you bought the home?
So let me see. There was some asbestos in the HVAC, like wrapping, like the wrapping around the HVAC system. So we got that replaced.
The ductwork.
Right. Yeah, the ductwork replaced.
So the wrapping or all the ductwork?
So all the ductwork.
Oh, so your HVAC system replacement is gonna be cheaper because that ductwork can be kept.
Awesome.
Just when the time comes, don't let. If you're not going to call me, which I'm not telling you have to, but don't let a future HVAC person try to upsell you on new ducts, because your ducts are now modern. Yeah. And your HVAC unit, the box outside, the AC, I'm not assuming, I should ask, do you have heat and air in one box?
Yeah. Okay, what's it called? Something pack.
It's a heat pump. Yeah. Or heat pack. Yeah. Versus having a separate furnace and a separate air conditioner.
Yeah. It's all one.
So that unit is all you will need to have replaced when the time comes. Yeah. So that's half the cost. Yeah. Because there's a lot of labor in pulling those out and putting new ones in. And you're like, it's good. We're just going to, this box is garbage, put in a new box. Yeah. A couple G's.
Yeah. That was the main thing we got done. I think the ducts. Oh, we also had like no insulation in our attic, right? There was like anywhere between like no inches and like 5 inches, so not enough. And I think
it had compressed over time, the loose insulation.
I think so, but in some places there just was like none. So I don't know what had happened there. So that's something we ended up doing ourselves, like 7-8 months after we moved in like the winter time.
You just rented the machine and
blew it in. Yeah. Yeah,
like
my brother-in-law came down, who's a real estate developer, and helped us out with that. So me, my wife, and my brother-in-law did that. So you were talking about this before about things you can't see, right? And how like those things are really important. I think the thing is like people, at least myself, it's like I feel resistant. I want to spend money on the things that we can't see, but it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating to like spend, a couple $1,000s on something, and it's like you come in, it's like it seems like everything's the same, right? Yep. It's like, where did that money go, right?
Yeah. When you buy a new car, you get to drive over to your buddy's house, or he gets to come over for steaks, and you get to go look at that Corvette or whatever the hell it is in your driveway.
And you feel it. You're in the
like,
new
there
space.
It is. Yeah. But when you walk in and you get to go, I just had my water heater replaced. Right. Look at that silver box on the side of my house from 80 feet away that you didn't even know really existed
until it broke. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what happened to your water? Oh, nothing. It was just past time, and I didn't want it to break. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's better? Or it's the same. Oh, okay. Like, no one gives a shit. No one cares.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have an oil tank in our crawl space because it was built in the 50s. They used to use for heating, right?
Yeah, you used to have an oil furnace.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something that we want to get taken out or need to get taken out, but we've been resistant to spend the $2,000, $3,000, whatever amount of money it is for that, right? Because it's like, man, do we it'll be okay, right? It's like something that will be okay until it's not okay.
It'll be okay until you have a small house fire that turns into a very big house fire.
Exactly. So and hopefully, I think the homeowner maybe thinks that they put sand in it to fill it up, to kind of help decommission it, but they don't know for sure. So that's one of the things that's not seeing that we're like, oh man, I know we need to do this. So there's a lot of things that the house needed. So the insulation, the HVAC, we don't have any insulation underneath our house either, in the crawl space, right?
Just none.
It's just I've been in a crawl space a few times, and you just hear everything in the house because it's just the hardwood floor, right? So that's something that we also have not done, right?
Okay, so I am not someone who's going to tell you how to prioritize your life.
Go for it.
But I just need you to know that you are destroying your wallet with the utility bill that is being wasted through that floor not having insulation. You either need to add it in the floor, or you need to insulate the crawl space walls, which at this point I would recommend you do. I would also recommend you use spray foam and call MPI. Shout out MPI spray foam. Because you are just cold and hot are meeting, and it's just leaking. So you're heating and air conditioning the whole world.
Yeah. So we, I appreciate the advice. I think,
and that's one of those things that you very eloquently put. That's you just spend money and you get to see nothing, but you'll see your electric bill go down.
And kind of to your point, when we added in the insulation in our attic, it felt completely different, right? It's like something you can't see, but it felt not as cold, not as hot, less cold spots in the house. And we felt like there was a big difference.
You're going to feel even more. You're going to feel the same night and day difference when you do the floor.
And I think,
especially if you walk around, I don't, with my foot problems, I'm always in socks and slippers. Yeah. But if you're a barefoot person, especially, you're going to feel the difference because all of a sudden you're going to have not your floor is the direct heat to cold contact. So that's the coldest point.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the main, let me see. I guess I was going to say the main kind of concern we have about the crawl space and everything is the moisture, right? We have a sump pump. I think that's what those things are called.
Yeah.
And we have, at one point it had tripped off because of some electricity thing, right? So we thought it was broken, but we just needed to trip it back on. The main concern about under the crawl space is the moisture, for me at least, right? There being too much moisture and that causing mold on the main beams that are holding up the house. And then the insulation, right? But part of the resistance is that the quote for all the things is like upwards of like $15,000 for this, right? And we're like, that's not something we got right now, you know, like and you mentioned before, congratulations, we're having a baby, right? And so it's like, we definitely feel like a different level of urgency when we found out we were pregnant. Or when my wife was pregnant, like, we were like, okay, all these things that have been on our list, we need to get them done now, like, and started kind of knocking some things off the list. We still have more things to do. But I think, part of it is just like the sheer cost for that one. And we're like, all right, we can deal with the cold floors for now, right? Or deal with the, like, you know, we have a lot of rugs in our house and things like that.
So you can break down that project, and probably you should, because, I mean, look, it's not smart to have a higher utility bill and deal with cold floors. You're going to have a baby crawling around, but that's a different conversation. But as far as like sealing your crawl space, adding insulation, and dealing with the moisture, somebody's going to charge you $15,000, or you can break that up into 3 projects. Yeah. So I would say you should definitely prioritize, and I have a subcontractor for this, the exterior drainage and the waterproofing of your crawl space, because if moisture's getting in, really in any capacity, it is molding and bacteria growing somewhere. Yeah. And for you and a newborn, that's not good. Yeah. Like the cold, okay, you're going to just pay a little bit more to heat it. Like that's a solution that is not good, but is okay in the long run. But about now it's like a health conversation of like,
I agree.
And so by addressing your gutters, your downspouts, where they are connected, where that water is going, and just the natural grading of maybe like the neighboring water running and that, like that is a very simple, easy solution to like, okay, let's just stop penetrating water. If we make sure any water that comes near goes away, that's great. Step 1. Okay, cool. Now we have a dry crawl space. Now let's get the proper plastic vapor barrier down. Let's either insulate the walls and then the crawl space becomes conditioned space, or you insulate the floor, which is like the old school way of doing it. Now everybody is
just insulating the whole crawl space.
Yeah, because it's actually less insulation, because you insulate the 2.5 foot wall with spray foam against the cinder block, and you just
the vapor barrier at the bottom.
Yeah, the vapor barrier definitely always there in all situations. But it's like almost the same insulation, but the earth acts as a better like, rather than having just like cold air in the crawl space, you now have like, you know, the earth as the protective layer. I've heard from some HVAC people that they are hearing that it might officially change, like building code wise, and it might just simply be the way we do crawl spaces from now on. Because it's at the moment now where it's like, it's agreed universally that it's better. It's just a tiny bit more money. It's just going to be one of those things where it's like, money be damned, it's the better solution. Like, just do it correctly.
Like the cost benefit is, better to just do it.
Yeah, and if you're building a home for yourself, it's not even a conversation. Like, do it for yourself because you'll save the money. If you're building a home to resell, then you could maybe have a conversation about like, well, I'm just flipping this home real quick. Yeah, I don't maybe give the crap. Yeah, exactly. You know.
Yeah. So that's one major thing that's kind of on our list, right? There's like kind of things here and there, like.
What's on the like new we have a baby top priority list? Like, have you bought all those little plastic plug protector things?
No, one of our friends came over who has a little over 1 year old, and that was great because it was just like my brain was thinking differently about, what can they get into? You know, what can they go get? Something my wife has been saying is that thankfully, you know, babies when they first come, they're not very mobile, you know, so you can kind of figure out some of the things. But yeah. So I think some of the things on the list are like, it's a 3-bedroom house, right? So the smallest room currently is like my office because I work from home. So we're changing that into a nursery.
Okay.
It's already orange because every room in our house is a different color. That's how it came to us. And at first we were like, oh my goodness, we got to change this.
You should paint them all orange just so we're clear. No,
we were like, we got to change this. But like the longer we were there, and I think because when the pandemic hit, we were in the house all the time. So it's kind of nice to have some variety.
Hey, orange is a good universal color that is gender neutral.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna leave it orange. So we're moving things out of there. We got a shed built in the back because our house is about 1,000 square feet. So
very small. One bath?
One bath, yep.
Oof, got to add another bath.
You're adding projects to me, huh? So
no, I'm just thinking. I'm sure you want another bath.
I've had the thought. Of course, we had the thought.
I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been like, it'd be nice if we had another bathroom.
Yeah, we have the thought most
a master suite with its own bathroom,
and especially like we bought it before. We technically bought it before the pandemic, or put the offer in before the pandemic. So we didn't plan for it to be a pandemic house, right? So yes, we want. We gotta
dive into that right away. So I gotta just back up like a tad. Yeah. If you can even remember mindset of like, okay, February, we're buying a freaking house, which is already insane, life changing, amazing moment. You and your wife, like. It's incredible. It's an incredible moment. At least it should be for most people. And then all of a sudden, it's like you haven't even closed yet, and the world is closed. Everything is shut down. Did you lose your job? Did you get a new job? Did it become a work from home job? Like what happened for you guys?
So yeah, I can tell you a little bit about my mindset and state of mind. Like, as the pandemic was hitting, I started to like freak out a little bit and be like, oh my goodness, we're making this leap into home ownership, and like, will I have a job? Will I, will we be okay? Like, is this gonna be a big loan around our neck type of thing, pulling us down? But thankfully, I talked to my sister and my mom about it, and
who are both homeowners, I assume.
No, well, my mom is, but my sister is not. And,
okay.
And so I think they like
just getting good family advice.
Getting good family advice, and just like being like, hey, I'm worried about this. Like, y'all know what it's like to be kind of have everything you need and be fine, and be in some like kind of financial situations that feel like they're too much. So let's talk about this, right? And they were both really reassuring and just kind of like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? So it'll be okay. Also, even if you were renting, like rent can go up a lot, right? People can jump, and that's been true over the last 2 years, 3 years, right? Or like people can change their agreements or try to get you out of there for somebody else, right? So I think they were just saying like
life's unpredictable.
Life's unpredictable, and it's not like the other renting still will keep you. Will protect you from all those things, and we had already put in the offer. So they
were kind of saying like your security is the same, either like you roll the dice either side,
right? Basically. And there can be some added security of having a house because there's some rent control, right?
Yeah, your mortgage, depending on your mortgage package, you can be locked into a very nice rate.
Which we were.
Yeah. There you go. So that can even be a better security.
Exactly. So I think that was it's kind of settling me down. So that was my mindset a little bit. Thankfully, I did not lose my job. I felt pretty confident about my wife's job because she worked in a financial institution, and they were just pretty secure. But
you mentioned you had to work from home now.
Yeah, so now I had to work from home, and we both were working from home, which we were fortunate to. I guess, in some ways, like it went from freaking out about this financial decision about what will happen to a blessing in some ways, because we had social distance. That was the word, the word of 2020, right? One of the words of 2020. Social distance from people. We were in an apartment like kind of building before, so we had social distance from folks. We were thinking about buying a 2-bedroom house before, and thankfully we had this 3-bedroom house, so that gave us like space to have like space to work from home.
So do you share the 3rd bedroom as an office?
So we use basically the second and third bedroom, we used those as offices. So we had like 2 offices. The second bedroom also we had a bed in it, but nobody was coming to stay with us, in
Right.
the
No
pandemic.
guest room needed in the pandemic.
No guest room needed, right?
Yep.
And so it was just nice to have some space while we were, yelling at each other in our separate Zoom calls, right? Or separate, speaking really loudly and all that stuff. So it was good to have some separate space. So that was like fortunate. And we had the 1 bathroom, which, we made that work, but like we also didn't think about that, like going to bed. We're like, 1 is enough, it's just like us, but we didn't think we were going to be there 24 hours a day. And thankfully we have like great neighbors, who were really like welcoming, even in the pandemic. And it felt like we got to know at least a few people in this new space, even though most people were like kind of shut in their home. So yeah, so it was like a lot different than what we expected it to be. There's no way we would have guessed at this. But it's turned out to be a pretty great place.
How could anybody have
No,
guessed?
how could anybody, right?
I mean, it was
been a great place and a great the location even played more of a factor because we were at home so much. So it was just like nice to be able to walk around. Be like not next to a 4-lane street, or
you could even walk like to restaurants that became takeout only. You could be like, well, we're gonna get a half-mile walk in just to get some blood flowing, because gyms were closed. I have my 3rd bedroom's a home gym, but I did that before the pandemic. But like not everybody had that access. So people have come over and they're like, oh my God, this must have been like
super nice,
your brain pandemic saver. And I was like, actually, it's been my life for several years because I just feel insecure at the gym. But like, I can only imagine once that gets taken away, the pandemic, because like, there's no vanity for me. I need the endorphins. Like I need the mental.
It's really important.
So like for me, I just can only imagine. Yeah. And also, life for me didn't even really change that much. Like I had long-term projects that I kept going. Construction was deemed, whatever the term, not mandatory, essential.
Essential, yeah.
So like, all my houses have a lockbox with the key. Mm-hmm. So like, hey, plumber, I'm not going to meet you. We're going to go do it. Yeah. If there's a problem, I'm going to go the next day without you. And if there's a problem, I'll text you a picture and the lockbox is there and I'll leave a check.
You can still do it.
And it's just slower, add a day for, I've got to, instead of meeting you when you're done, I got to go the next day. And then so just like, but I kept it moving. And, I'm kind of already like a shut-in recluse kind of person who's into, Netflix and stuff. Yeah. So it just kind of like my life didn't change. Like I'm at the time single and I have a Costco card. So like I never even got halfway out of toilet paper. Like I was like, what? Everyone's fighting over TP. I was like, I'm good. Like okay. Like chicken went up a little. Like so it was very, let's be clear, like I'm not trying to diminish anybody's hardships. I'm trying to just like make a little light and levity here. Like I'm not some asshole who's trying to like pretend that somebody didn't have very difficult times. Yeah. A lot of people had a lot of very difficult hardships. I acknowledge that. Let's just be real clear. I'm just trying to joke around a bit. Yeah. But like personally, I kept working, which allowed me to stay pretty sane. Personally, I had a home gym. Yeah. And I didn't run out of toilet paper. So like
during this time, the like home space, the space where you're at, being able to stay in, being able to like be in a place where you feel safe. It's huge, right? Because like it's a time of like
companionship of a pet for me was. Do you have pets?
I have a cat. Yes.
Okay, so that even though they're not as like in your face as a dog, there's still some companionship of that. You get to hold and cuddle a cat. There's some real.
It makes a big difference.
Legit neuron activity that goes on when you cuddle that. What's your cat's name?
Yeah, Carmela is our cat name.
Very good, very good name.
And her 20 nicknames.
Oh yeah, Willie's got so many. Willie's technically a nickname. He's technically William, the royal, named after Grandpa Bill.
Nice.
So that is just such a drastic change. And you have to go from kind of mentally like we have a whole guest room and a whole extra room, and now we have 2 home offices, and like the bathroom always stinks. And you mentioned you built a shed.
So
is that recent or for the pandemic? That's recent.
Like, so we have been thinking about getting a shed for a while, just for extra storage.
How long does it take you to build a shed?
How long does it take me to do it?
Did you build the shed? Or
I don't know how long it takes to build the shed.
Did you hire somebody?
We hired somebody to build a shed.
Just checking.
I did. That is how we talk sometimes. We're like, we built this house. I'm like, did you build a house? It just meant you. It just meant, you were there when somebody else did it, right? So, we have been thinking about getting a shed for a while. And we were thinking about, will we build it ourselves? Will we get like a kit and build it? Or will we hire somebody to do it? So when we found out that we were having a baby, that was like, it had been something we'd been thinking about for like a year and a half, had done a lot of research on. So after we found out we were having a baby, we did that immediately. That was like, because we were like, we're going to need more space. So
that'll be an office.
No, the shed will just be because we have our like stuff, we have this back porch, right? That's like,
like a screen that's screened in.
Screened thing. It's probably a 12 by 10 or something. So it's like a good sized thing. But it's mostly we have been using it for a storage space. It's
because you needed 2 offices.
Yes, because we needed 2 offices, and just the extra stuff we have. We don't have a garage or anything like that.
So your shed's going to be a shed.
Yeah, it's going to be a shed, for storage stuff.
Are you running power to it?
Not yet.
Water to it?
Not yet.
Are you insulating it?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
So it's a shed.
It's a shed. So we built that because we're trying to make space, right? Like kind of moving everything from the rooms, at least to the outside porch, to the shed, like just trying to move things out to make room. We have to, although we had to get our house grounded for the electricity, a lot of the power outlets themselves are not grounded, and they're not 3-pronged, right?
They're 2-pronged.
They're 2-pronged, and they're not. Yep. So that's something we got to do too. We want to get like the ducts clean, like the inside of the ducts clean, like because we got the ducts replaced, but the ones in the walls didn't get replaced because that would have required taking out walls and stuff.
Yep.
Let me see what else we have. A lot of things on our list. We have like just little things around the house, like some like gaps between. I think there used to be carpet in there, and then there's hardwood under the carpet. So I think some of the way that things were built, they were kind of built to line up with the carpet. So there's like just kind of like little gaps sometimes.
So you'd put like transition strips between
that sounds like
between 2 types of flooring.
Sure.
There's a gap.
Yeah.
Like probably at a doorway.
Yeah. And like there's just like some gaps in some places that we want to do. We want to what else? Probably put some like fans in there. We just have the regular lights. Put some fans in there, and then our back porch is not is not air conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of we might explore that of like, one, it seems like our HVAC system is big enough to like pit ducts out there, and it would be able to handle the extra capacity. So either that or one of those like 1-room type air conditioning things. Right?
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, dude, let me know when you need me to look at it, because if your HVAC can do it, it's like $250 to run a duct over there. It's like
that's good to know.
Yeah. If your AC can't do it, instead of a window unit, you should look into a split ductless system, which is where they just like put a really nice head unit somewhere on the wall, and then they run all of the stuff in a false gutter downspout, and they just put another AC next to your existing AC, and it just controls that room.
Yeah,
and that can actually be the preferred method, because that room will be temperature controlled separately and just have a remote.
We don't need to heat and cool it all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. I just did this. I actually put 2 of them with their own remotes in a bedroom and playroom of an attic renovation, and the client was like, it's the best thing we ever did not having it all, because we're not up there a lot.
Yeah.
It's like when I go up there, I walk up there, I hit the remote, 5 seconds later, it's cool. And the 3 days a year I need it, or whatever it is, it's like, otherwise I'm just heating that for no reason.
Yep.
And it's like,
so that's something we might do too. So, so I think not a whole bunch of like major stuff. I think down the road, like, when we figure out this whole parenting thing, and
you're never going to
figure out how to find figure out how to find some more money in the budget, we may do things like another bathroom, or try to make a porch or something, just random stuff like that if we don't move first.
When you find more money, let me know. I'd love some of it. Yeah, I don't know.
That's right.
Wherever
Please.
you're digging, let me know. I'll bring an excavator because I'd love some of that, just random free money. No, but yeah, I mean, those are all, it's a very like your dream list is, in reality of very cool stuff. And then like your priority of like, well, we're having a baby, so we're doing X, Y, and Z first. Like it does make a tremendous amount of sense. I mean, you've got your, priorities of necessity and then priorities of like health, which is borderline the same thing as necessity. And you're doing them all, the same way, I think. So that's really cool. I think you're definitely the first person. You're 100% the first person who's been on the podcast who's a homeowner who's expecting. So that right there is something that is very cool to talk about. And then, I just appreciate you being able to kind of like backtrack the whole pandemic emotional roller coaster that we all did, but not everybody bought a home. What would say the height of it as it literally changed.
We all had our emotional roller coaster going on then, but ours involved a house. So it involved a lot of things for people, but
So looking back, would you do anything different? I mean, obviously you can't control what you can't control. So like you can't control buying a house in a pandemic, but like looking back on the whole process as you sit here now with a home you're very happy with. Oh, I guess I should ask you that. Are you happy with the home?
Yeah.
Do you guys love it?
Yeah, we're happy with the home. Let me see. So yeah, we're happy with the home. Like the location has been really nice. It hasn't really given us many problems except for just it being an old house and the things we need to spend money on for that, like the insulation or the.
Did your realtor give you like real world warnings? Like, hey, you're buying a house from the 50s. Like, the electric is gonna you're gonna have to ground all these outlets. Like, you're gonna have no insulation or whatever. Yeah,
and I think for what we were hoping for, which was like, I think we kind of prefer the older house in terms of the aesthetic and the price, at least for that location, like that. We would get something that would be more affordable for us,
Yeah. The more you talk about the house, the more the low price is less surprising.
Yeah.
Because so you list that house at $350,000. Anybody at the day they get a home inspection is going to go, well, we're taking $10,000 off because I need to insulate. We're taking $15,000 off because of the electric. I need to take this off for the HVAC, and then all of a sudden it is exactly what you paid. Basically what you paid for it.
That's right.
So,
and we got some of the things covered, but totally feel you on that, right? Because they would have, and maybe a realtor that had been working with them would have said, all right, why don't you expect to get this taken off of the cost, or you fix it yourself beforehand.
Oh, I guarantee you if the seller, I can't guarantee you anything because it's in the past, but my gut is telling me that any realtor would have told that person, insulate this crawl space. Yeah. Figure this out now because this is not you can't. Like if that house was being built today, it would not get a CO. It wouldn't pass code. It would not get a certificate, and you wouldn't be able to occupy it.
Yeah. So we're happy with the house. I think some of the expected things of it being older. Would I do anything different? No, not really. I think there's been so much that's happened with our house. Not with our house, but so much has happened in the last 3 years since we got our house.
Just in life.
Right? And so, it's done what we hoped it would do. It's kept us safe and warm for the most part. It's been a place where, we've kind of weathered through the pandemic, and it's done that for us. It has been a place where when our family did come visit, it was really exciting because it had been during the pandemic when they hadn't come. I'm from Georgia. Both of our families are from Georgia, and I have siblings who live in other places too. So it's not like people were coming over often. So, and even still, I have friends who are coming over for the first time, and it's exciting, right? So I think yeah, it's been a good place for us.
You have a fantastic hosting backyard. I mean, you had what, 20 people for your birthdays there, and it was adorable.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was great. It's like we have our own little enclave back there, which I hated when I first got there because it was like, man, I was like, I gotta cut. It's like there's a whole bunch of vines back there, right? So I was like, man, I'm losing against the vines. The vines are winning, but when having people over, they help like kind of reframe it for me. It's like, wow, it's like an oasis back here. It's very green. It's very like kind of covered.
Well, it's the unique combo of being literally, we're not going to say your street name because it's your private home, but like you are literally downtown Durham.
Yeah.
Like you could walk to the Bulls baseball stadium if you didn't have my messed up foot. And yet, like you walk into your backyard and you could like almost not see houses. You're like it's like a Jurassic Park, almost like Florida swamp feel.
Yeah.
And I mean that only with compliments. Like it is, I mean, that combo is rare. And it's like, you know, people have to do that. Sometimes people don't realize the cultivation and expense of like a fence and then planting and waiting 7 seasons for a plant to grow and the trimming a special way. And like, you got to just kind of walk into that and it's special. And I'm glad you kind of morphed your mindset a little bit to think, to realize how cool that is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's been nice to get other people's perspective on it. I think there are a lot of vines that are out of control back there, but they add to the secluded feel. But yeah, it's been nice.
That's why you're having a kid. He'll help you trim it.
That's right.
Yeah, you're making labor.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
So the last thing I guess I want to ask you is, as a first-time home buyer, what advice would you give to other first-time home buyers?
Yeah, that's a great question. What advice would I give?
There's some gimmies that I know that we'll circle on, like, you know, trusting your network, you know, trusting your having your family's help.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, trusting in your realtor, and finding a good realtor, which can be hard. It was easy for you because you trusted in your network of friends.
Yeah.
But those are kind of like the gimmies.
Ooh, yeah. I feel like I don't have any really good advice for like what will help you get a home type of thing, you know, because I feel like we got lucky and I feel like it's about your resources, right? Like if about how much money you got right now, right? Like with whatever the interest is right now, 6% or something. And being able to get into a place, you know, I think all the things you said, you know, I would say, and this is something we did when we planned our wedding, kind of know what your kind of highest values are when you're looking for a house, like between if you're looking with a partner or a friend or family member.
How did
kind of talking about what are your values in buying a home?
How did you and your wife figure that out?
Well, we talked about it, right? Like we had different values, like as individuals, you know. Yeah, but talking about it and talking about which ones like could work for both of us. So a value that's always happening for me, but it's not always I'm not always like aware of it, is like cheap as possible, right? Like that's a value of mine that I need to like check sometimes, right?
Right.
I think too, trying to be in a somewhat diverse neighborhood, right? Like that's not just like all white people, because like it'd be just nice to be around like different types of folks, right? I think, and then I think about like walkable. That was one of Catherine's, right? A place that's like walkable that you can like be, you can easily go for walks. So she, like we were talking about mental health before and like endorphins and stuff. That's like a key way that she gets exercise. I think those are the main things, like affordable. We changed cheapest to like what we can afford, right?
And that was just, again, more, or maybe it wasn't, but I'm assuming it was just like more simply you and Catherine just talking.
Yeah, we
like, well, I want to spend $0 and get
exactly.
And we could spend this, and the middle is this number.
Right. Or like, like how much would that be per month? Like, do we feel okay about this amount?
So do you
run having a conversation?
Do you run some of those numbers maybe like through a financial institution? You're like, hey, hypothetically, if we did this, this, and this, what would our monthly? And you factor that in over dinner or whatever.
So we mostly ran it through like those like loan calculators that you can.
Oh, just like online. Yeah.
On the Redfin site, the Zillow site, but also like on a bank site, to try to get an idea of how much it would be. Of course, that doesn't factor in like your insurance costs.
Yeah, but they're close enough to at least like
exactly.
have a ballpark where you can compare apples to apples.
And then you'll talk to the lending folks, but then kind of getting a loan. When you get a loan, it's like, how much can you be approved for, right? Our people didn't really tell us amount. We told them an amount, and they're like, "Yeah, you can get approved for that much." So
you're not the first person who said that, and to me, that is drastically confusing. I don't get that because in my head, if I wanted a loan, I would go to a loan officer and say, "This is me on paper, everything. Tell me the max I can get a loan for, and then I will shop accordingly. If I want to be a dumb person and get a house for the max loan and be stressed, that's on me. If I could get approved for an amount and I want to buy a house for half that amount, I could be considered a smarter person." But that's to me, it's like it's on you, but I don't understand.
I don't understand it either.
I don't understand.
That's
you could be like, question. Well, I need $400,000 for a loan. Can I get that? Like, what? Just tell me what I can get approved for, and then I'll go shopping. But I'm going to find out tomorrow.
Yes.
You know what? Let me get another post-it note.
It's a great question.
Another post-it note here. Yeah. Do you want to come tomorrow to the podcast? Yeah.
No, it'll give me something to listen to.
There you go. But you can listen to me at the gym while you're getting that mental.
That's right. That's right. Getting some endorphins going. So. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't really know how it works. It felt a little fishy to be like, well, because we had done the calculations on like what we were thinking would be good for us, and we were looking at houses that kind of matched up with that price range. We asked for a certain amount in that like range, right? And it seemed kind of fishy. They were like, sure,
sure, no
like,
problem.
Yeah. So I mean, we weren't going to go much above that. But it sounded like we could have asked for a different amount, and maybe they still would have said sure, but who knows? So
interesting.
So we had a conversation. We had like, that would be my advice of like talking to yourself if it's just you. Or I shouldn't say just, but if it's you, or talking to the people you're buying a house with about like what's important to you, trying to figure that out, trying to work through that, and be clear about
whatever
that.
the process may be. Don't short yourself on really figuring out what you need and what's important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not what is the shiniest, because that's not the stuff that really, like you said, your home has kept you, warm and all of those amazing things that the home has done for you. But like, had you walked in and it just been like super nice appliances, it doesn't necessarily like. That's not a factor of the insulation.
But if that's one of your values, right? Like it's kind of being clear about it, right? And then you start to prioritize that. Of course, you hope that the other things are true, right?
Yeah.
Like that that is safe and warm and all that stuff. But if you think like appliances are really important, or whatever it is, right? Then you can search for those things too. So I think it helps being clear. But of course, like it's all about having the money, having the resources, being able to get the loans and stuff like that, which is a whole nother conversation. But
yeah, it's an annoying conversation, but it is one that needs to be had. And it's pretty awesome that this kind of podcast is ending with that perfect segue into tomorrow's podcast, because they will air a week apart, but they'll air back to back. So that's pretty awesome. Right. Hey man, this was a lot of fun. I really want to thank you. I know we had some scheduling conflicts, but we got it in, we got it done. You're the first person to come with notes, which is amazing. And I think both Willie Bear is staring at me going, I'm hungry, and we got to go. So this is us signing off.
Thanks a lot, Corbett. I appreciate it.
You are very welcome, and just thanks again so much for coming. All right, everybody. Bye. Have a great day.